In the dead of night, the serene silence of the Peterborough estate was shattered by the low rumble of an approaching vehicle. Mihai Dobre, a courier for one of the most feared county lines operations in the east of England, believed this to be just another routine delivery. Yet, as he navigated the dimly lit streets, destiny had other plans. An ambush lay in wait, orchestrated not by rival gangs, but by two desperate souls ensnared in a web of addiction and crime. The calm was violently disrupted by the explosive roar of a shotgun, its echoes reverberating through the darkness. In that instant, Dobre's life hung in the balance, his blood staining the upholstery of his car as he slumped forward, a victim of a brutal and senseless act. This was not the calculated maneuverings of organized crime, but the reckless gamble of Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Pycraft, two men whose lives had been marred by a litany of criminal endeavors. Hutchinson and Pycraft, each carrying the weight of their troubled pasts, believed they could outsmart the system. Their plan was simple in its audacity. Rob a county line's drug runner, disappear into the labyrinthine estate, and abscond with both cash and narcotics. Yet they overlooked a critical detail: the identity of their target. The courier they sought to rob belonged to the Turks, a gang with a reputation for merciless retribution. In mere hours, the repercussions of their actions unfolded with grim inevitability. Law enforcement a guard while the other, seemingly resigned to his fate, lingered within the very estate that bore witness to their crime. The story that emerges from this chaos is one of tragedy and folly, a tale of a heist gone awry and the ensuing cycle of violence that it unleashed. To target any dealer was to court danger, but to challenge the Turks was to invite certain doom. Hutchinson and Pycraft were not merely criminals, they were products of a society that had failed them. At 30, Hutchinson's life was a catalog of transgressions, a series of violent acts, racially charged threats, and confrontations with the law, each etched into the memories of local police. Pycraft, a decade older, bore the scars of over 100 offenses, his descent into addiction triggered by a fall that left him dependent on painkillers. Their existence was one of perpetual drift, marked by unemployment and substance abuse, their lives intertwined with the decay of the Peterborough estates, where poverty and crime intermingled. It was during one of their hazy, drug-fueled sessions that Hutchinson proposed his ill-fated scheme. The allure of quick cash proved irresistible to Pycraft, and together they set their sights on the Turks, undeterred by the gang's fearsome reputation. The Turks, masters of a county lines network, operated with an iron grip, their operations shrouded in secrecy and protected by a code of conduct understood by all who dared to enter their world. To work for the Turks was to be shielded. To betray them was to be marked for death. Yet in their reckless confidence, Hutchinson and Pycraft believed they could defy the odds. Armed with a shotgun and a flawed plan, they lured the unsuspecting courier into the Crabtria estate, imagining a swift and bloodless coup. But in the realm of crime, as in life, the simplest plans often unravel in the most tragic of ways, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions. In the end, this tale stands as a stark reminder of the human condition, where desperation meets hubris, and the thin veneer of civilization is stripped away to reveal the chaos lurking beneath. In the dimly lit labyrinth of the Crabtria estate, a silent drama unfolded under the cloak of night. Hutchinson and Pycraft, their judgment clouded by substances, believed they were architects of a crime so cunning it was destined to succeed. What they failed to foresee was the perilous path they were treading, one that could ignite a chain of events far beyond their control. Their scheme was simple, yet steeped in delusion. They planned to contact the Turks County Lines, a notorious supplier, order a substantial quantity of narcotics, and ambush the courier. Hutchinson boasted he could procure a shotgun with ease, and Pycraft was confident they could execute the plan without a hitch. The Crabtria estate, with its bewildering grid of identical streets, was their chosen hunting ground, a place where the unwary could be ensnared and disappear without a trace. For weeks, the plan simmered in their minds until it reached a boiling point. The fateful day was decided, February 23rd, just minutes past midnight. The call was made, the deal set. What Hutchinson and Pycraft didn't realize was that they were not dealing with prey, but with unwitting participants in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Behind the wheel of the unassuming Toyota was Mihai Dobre, a Romanian expatriate who had made the United Kingdom his home. Dobre, a courier for the Turks County lines, was no stranger to the dangers of his trade. Yet he was not a man of violence. He was simply a cog in a much larger machine, delivering packages and collecting his share. That night, his companion was Anna Sealing, his girlfriend, who accompanied him not out of necessity but for company as they traversed the winding roads. As they approached the estate, an unsettling stillness hung in the air. The Crabtria estate was an architectural enigma, a maze of nearly indistinguishable streets, each bearing the same name, Crabtria. Street signs, if present, served more as ornaments than guides. It was this very confusion that had drawn Hutchinson and Pycraft to choose this locale for their ambush. In the shadows, Hutchinson gripped the shotgun tightly, while Pycraft was poised to intercept the car. The estate lay in a deathly quiet, the streets shrouded in darkness. It was the perfect setting for an ambush. Once Dobre entered this. As the clock inched past midnight, Dobre maneuvered his vehicle into the estate's serpentine streets. The headlights sliced through the night, but the drop-off point seemed to evaporate into the ether. An uneasy feeling gnawed at him, a sense that something was amiss. Anna Sealing sensed it too, a tension in the air that was palpable. With no sign of their purported customers, Dobre decided to abandon the mission and leave the estate. Yet, as they turned to exit, Christopher Pycraft emerged from the shadows, signaling them to stop. In that moment, an ordinary courier run descended into chaos. The tranquility of the estate was shattered as Hutchinson and Pycraft's plan was set into motion. The deceptive calm of the night belied the violence that was about to unfold, a grim reminder of how easily the line between predator and prey can blur in the world of illicit trade. In the end, the Crabtria estate would stand as a silent witness to the events of that night, a testament to human fallibility and the unpredictable nature of fate. It is a stark reminder that in the pursuit of greed and power, the greatest danger often lies not in the act itself, but in the unforeseen consequences that ripple outward, altering lives in ways both profound and irrevocable. In the shadowy depths of a cold February night, the streets of Peterborough's Crabtree estate became the stage for a tragic and violent encounter. Mihai Dobre, an unsuspecting courier of illicit substances, found himself ensnared in a deadly ambush. As he navigated the labyrinthine roads, the dim glow of a street lamp offered little comfort against the lurking dangers. From behind, a figure emerged with menacing intent. Liz Hutchinson, concealed beneath a hood, advanced rapidly, clutching a shotgun with a grim determination. Dobre, sensing the imminent threat, acted on instinct. In a desperate bid for survival, he pressed the accelerator, the engine's roar echoing his urgency. But fate was unkindly swift. The thunderous crack of the shotguns shattered the night stillness as a volley of pellets ripped through the vehicle's rear window. Dobre's world turned red as the lethal projectiles found their mark. The car lurched to a halt, a metallic beast brought to a sudden, shuddering stillness. Inside, Anna's screams pierced the night, a heart-wrenching symphony of horror and despair. The commotion stirred the estate from its slumber. Two brothers, drawn by the cacophony of distress, rushed from their home, their hearts heavy with foreboding. What they encountered was a scene etched in tragedy. A lifeless Dobre, his head marred by a grievous wound, and Anna, lost in a maelstrom of shock. As one brother dialed for emergency services, the other, in a futile act of compassion, attempted to stem the flow of blood with his jacket. The minutes crawled by, each second a cruel testament to the fragility of life. When the authorities arrived, the grim reality was undeniable. Dobre's journey from the darkness of the streets to the sterile confines of the hospital was his last. He slipped quietly from the grasp of the living, leaving behind a world irrevocably altered. In the shadows, Hutchinson and his accomplice, Pycraft, melted away, leaving behind a scene devoid of their intended spoils. No money, no drugs, only the irreversible consequence of a life extinguished. Their plan, a flawed tapestry of greed and desperation, unraveled with deadly finality. The dawn of February 23, 2023, brought with it the somber pronouncement of Dobre's death. The Crabtria estate, its anonymity shattered, became a focal point of police scrutiny. Officers descended upon the scene, transforming the once quiet residential enclave into a hive of forensic activity. As investigators pieced together the night's events, the tangled web of a county line's drug operation began to unfurl. Dobre, a cog in the machinery of the Turks gang, had operated under the guise of burner phones and cryptic messages. Yet the digital breadcrumbs of call records and cell site data illuminated the path to justice. Anna Sealing, Dobre's companion and witness to the night's terror, emerged as a pivotal figure in the unfolding narrative. Her testimony, raw and unfiltered, painted a portrait of the assailant. The image of Hutchinson, captured by a neighbor's doorbell camera, lent credence to her words, bridging the gap between witness account and visual evidence. In the aftermath, the estate's residents grappled with the intrusion of violence into their lives. The murder investigation, a tapestry woven from the threads of technology and human memory, sought to unravel the motives behind the chaos. In the end, the night's events stood as a stark reminder of the human cost of crime, a narrative etched in the annals of tragedy. In the heart of Cambridgeshire, a tapestry of events unfolded, weaving a tale of violence, desperation, and familial loyalty. The recording, a silent witness to the unfolding drama, captured two men in motion, their presence marked by an imminent tragedy. As one man turned to face the unblinking eye of the camera, the authorities found a familiar visage staring back at them. This was Liss Hutchinson, a man whose past was etched with violence, his name synonymous with a history of transgressions. By the stroke of 1 in the afternoon, the echoes of the fatal shooting had already reached the ears of the Cambridgeshire police. Anonymous whispers, cloaked in secrecy, identified Hutchinson as the suspect, a name that resonated with foreboding. Alongside him, another name emerged from the shadows, Christopher Pycraft. The two men, bound by circumstance, had not ventured far from the scene of the crime. While Hutchinson vanished into the ether, Pycraft chose a path less traveled by fugitives. He remained tethered to the familiar confines of the Crabtria estate, a mere 2-minute distance from where the deadly act had transpired. In a brazen display of defiance, Pycraft did not seek the solace of obscurity. Within a day, he was spotted by a member of the Turks gang, a sighting that would provoke a swift and violent reaction. In the glaring light of day, a gang-affiliated dealer reversed course, weapon in hand, delivering a brutal assault upon Pycraft. The clash was fierce, Pycraft's arms raised in a desperate attempt to fend off the machete's vicious blows. In the ensuing chaos, he stumbled over a wall, fleeing the scene with grievous wounds, a fractured arm and deep lacerations marking his escape. Later, in the sterile confines of a hospital, Pycraft claimed his injuries were self-inflicted, a story that failed to convince both medical staff and law enforcement. Meanwhile, Hutchinson sought refuge in the shadows, finding temporary sanctuary within a traveler site, hidden inside a derelict vehicle. Yet fear gnawed at his resolve, prompting him to reach out to his grandmother, Diane Riley, through the anonymity of a newly acquired burner phone. "I've been a bad boy," he confessed, his voice heavy with remorse. Riley, bound by familial ties, agreed to retrieve him, spiriting him away to her home in Skegness, over 90 miles from the scene of his alleged crime. In Skegness, Riley and Hutchinson's aunt, Jeannie Stewart, became unwitting accomplices, aiding him in the disposal of incriminating evidence. But the law was relentless. Investigators tracing his digital footprints surmised that Hutchinson would seek refuge with family. 2 days post-murder, on February 25, 2023, armed officers descended upon Riley's abode. Hutchinson was apprehended with outraging charges of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Back in Peterborough, Pycraft's brief reprieve was cut short. Arrested while still nursing his wounds, he conceded to police that a dealer had been responsible for his injuries. Hutchinson, initially reticent, maintained a wall of silence during early interrogations, his responses limited to terse refusals. Yet by the third interview, the dam broke. In a written statement, Hutchinson painted a picture of unintended tragedy. He recounted the events of that fateful night, describing a casual walk with Pycraft that had spiraled into chaos. According to Hutchinson, Pycraft had unexpectedly thrust a shotgun into his hands. He claimed to have cradled that in a moment of panic, the gun discharged. In the quiet aftermath, the community of Cambridgeshire grappled with the reverberations of violence and the complexities of human frailty. The tale of Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Pycraft stands as a poignant reminder of the thin line between choice and consequence, a narrative etched into the annals of time, urging reflection on the profound impact of seemingly fleeting decisions. In the shadowed corridors of Peterborough Crown Court, a somber narrative unfolded, a tale woven with threads of betrayal, desperation, and fatal consequence. The court was convened to unravel the truth behind the tragic demise of Mihai Dobre, a young drug courier whose life was abruptly extinguished on a fateful night in the heart of the Crabtria estate. Liz Hutchinson, at the center of this storm, stood accused of murder. His defense, however, painted a picture of misfortune, a narrative of a gun fired in error, a life taken by mischance. Hutchinson's assertion was simple: a warning shot gone awry, the muzzle of the shotgun discharging unintentionally. Yet, as the trial progressed, it became increasingly evident that the circumstances surrounding Dobre's death were far from accidental. The prosecution meticulously laid out their case, constructing a tapestry of evidence that pointed to premeditation. At its core was the assertion that Hutchinson and his accomplice, Christopher Pycraft, orchestrated a scheme to rob the unsuspecting courier. Their plan was allegedly set in motion by a counterfeit drug order intended to lure Dobre into their trap. This was not a random act of violence, but rather a calculated move executed with cold precision. Pycraft, initially a co-defendant, chose to break ranks, offering a candid confession to law enforcement. His testimony was a linchpin, revealing the intricacies of the plot and highlighting Hutchinson's role in acquiring the firearm. The narrative he provided was damning, detailing not only the conspiracy to rob, but also the grim reality of the ambush that ensued. Despite his admission of conspiracy, Pycraft maintained that the fatal outcome was unforeseen, a tragic turn in a plan gone horribly wrong. Anna Seiling, Dobre's girlfriend and a witness to the harrowing event, corroborated Pycraft's account. Her testimony painted a vivid picture of the chaos that erupted in those final moments. The gunman, she confirmed, was indeed Hutchinson, a truth that was further supported by forensic ballistics, which left little room for ambiguity. The bullet that claimed Dobre's life was fired from close range, the trajectory speaking volumes of intent rather than accident. Yet the defense clung to the narrative of an accidental discharge. Hutchinson's demeanor in court was one of remorse and regret, his claims underscored by an insistence that he had no murderous intent. He portrayed himself as a reluctant participant, a man caught in a web of circumstance beyond his control. However, the testimony of a firearms expert would unravel this defense. The expert elucidated the mechanics of the weapon, a shotgun that required deliberate pressure to unleash its deadly force. This revelation cast a shadow over Hutchinson's claims, suggesting a level of intent that belied his protestations of innocence. Despite the compelling evidence, one crucial piece of the puzzle remained elusive. The shotgun itself, the harbinger of death, had never been recovered. Its absence was a haunting reminder of the unresolved threads in this complex tapestry of crime. As the trial drew to a close, the jury was left to ponder the weight of evidence and testimony, to discern the fine line between an act of reckless folly and a calculated execution. In the end, the courtroom became a crucible for truth, where justice and retribution sought to balance the scales. The case of Mihai Dobre's murder was not merely a question of guilt or innocence, but a reflection on the darker facets of human nature, where desperation breeds betrayal and the pursuit of gain eclipses the sanctity of life. As the gavel fell, the echoes of the trial lingered, challenging us to consider the profound consequences of our choices and the fragile thread upon which the fate of life and death hangs. In the solemn halls of justice, the prosecution presented a narrative as chilling as it was compelling. They argued that Liz Hutchinson had arrived at the fateful scene armed with a gun, a claim starkly at odds with his own account. The jury, stewards of truth, found the prosecution's evidence persuasive and reached a unanimous verdict. Meanwhile, Christopher Pickcraft, entangled in the web of crime, had already conceded to his own culpability, pleading guilty to conspiracy to rob. His defense strategy hinged on transparency and cooperation. In a detailed confession, Pickcraft laid bare the sequence of events, acknowledging his involvement in the robbery while distancing himself from the violent climax. He asserted that the introduction of the gun was Hutchinson's doing, claiming that the original plan eschewed violence. Pickcraft's testimony proved to be a linchpin in the prosecution's case. Prosecutors later acknowledged that without his forthright cooperation, securing the murder charge against Hutchinson might have remained an elusive goal. On the 30th of June, 2023, the verdict was delivered with solemn finality. Hutchinson was found guilty not only of murder, but also of conspiracy to commit robbery. His Honor, Judge Enright, described Hutchinson's actions as devoid of genuine remorse, branding the killing as a reckless and tragic escalation of criminality. The sentence was life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 31 years before the possibility of parole. Pickcraft, in light of his cooperation, received a sentence of 5 years and 3 months for his part in the conspiracy to rob. The court recognized his early guilty plea and assistance with the prosecution as significant mitigating factors, sparing him from a potential 14-year sentence. The courtroom drama extended beyond the principal actors. Hutchinson's family members, implicated in his efforts to evade justice, faced their own reckoning. His grandmother, Diane Riley, aged 65, and his aunt, Jeannie Stewart, aged 45, were both convicted of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, each receiving a 9-month prison sentence. Yet, amidst the resolutions, a lingering enigma persists. The shotgun, the instrument of death, vanished into the shadows on the night Mihai Dobre was slain. Despite exhaustive police efforts, it remains elusive, a spectral reminder of the night's violence. In the final analysis, the case serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of justice. It challenges us to ponder the nature of accountability and the shadows that linger even when the gavel falls. In the pursuit of justice, the truth, though at times obscured, remains the ultimate arbiter.